Welcome back, everyone, to the Analyst Lounge. Joining us right now is Payne Devion once again, wearing a fancy shirt underneath. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
You gotta keep it classy, you know. Jersey still over, though, so that we know where
that's
it's important.
Right. Representing.
He's going to Worlds. He doesn't matter. He's going to Worlds. That's the 5th seed. So I think he's pretty.
That's
pretty
right.
happy still.
I am.
So we got London Conspiracy going up against FnATIC, and we've seen both of these teams lose. London Conspiracy beat out Titan, though. FnATIC with an 0-3 loss. They got to be feeling rough, right?
Yeah, it's very uncharacteristic performance from FnATIC yesterday, and LC can easily take this series if they keep playing the way they did earlier.
Adonis, how are you feeling about these two teams going up against each other?
I think London Conspiracy is feeling very confident right now heading into this matchup. Not only did they lose to Epsilon, so they're not too heartbroken about kind of expecting to lose to Epsilon, but they also saw how weak FnATIC looked yesterday. They looked disorganized, and they seemed pretty frustrated with their losses. They got 3-0'd. So I think London Conspiracy is pretty happy about the matchup they have.
Would you agree, Payne Devion? Do you think that this is going to go to London Conspiracy?
It sounds to me like yesterday's games for FnATIC were kind of sloppy from them. They probably were nervous. First game they lose, then momentum goes to Paradigm. Maybe they carry on that momentum on the next 2 games. Maybe that's why FnATIC loses. Then against LC, it's a fresh set. If they beat them, they go against NA, against Eager. So I mean, I think they're going to come out strong, but you know, who knows?
Tolly, what did FnATIC learn against their loss against Paradigm?
I think it's going to come down to the picks and bans. They're going to have to do their homework. They prioritized Seoul a lot those first 2 games, and then they kind of leaned more towards the Fray the 3rd game. So we'll see if Reals takes a different approach towards the Hunter.
Now, we know that London Conspiracy likes that Scylla-Naja combo. Do you think that they're going to continue doing it again, or is that already spoiled?
It's spoiled, but it doesn't mean that it can't still work. My biggest problem with that combination is Aero's timing on it is very off. I even talked to Epsilon, and they said we're not worried about the combo specifically because Aero isn't securing the kills with I'm a Monster fast enough. He has time to Aegis it. If it's the same thing where London Conspiracy isn't executing that plan properly, then FnATIC's not going to worry about it.
Payne, what can they do to help them execute that more accurately?
We'll see. We're at a Super Regional. We're going to Worlds here. I think every team that came in here, they came with the practice of the SPL, plus that extra time in between now and the SPL. Knowing a little bit about London Conspiracy, I know for a fact that combo by now it's nailed. There's no way they're going to miss these combinations at this level right now. There's too much on the line for them to miss these, and I'm sure they practiced them. Obviously, we played them, so I don't want to spoil what they did, but they're going to be looking solid here. They're going to land these.
All right, well, let's compare these matchups. In the duo lane, who do you give it to?
It's between Reals and Shaggy, and we know Reals likes these late-game hyper carries, Rom, the Freya, exactly. Whereas Shaggyshenk will play more often than not, like any really god in the position. It's going to come down to how aggressive one of these missteps potentially or not.
How does Reals fundamentally differ from Shaggyshenk?
Reals is similar to Barracuda, but a little bit more on the aggressive side. Reals really likes to outplay his opponents, and he's very good at that. He always is very aware of the cooldowns and actives that the player has. He knows when he can go in, and he's always looking and ready to jump in and fight. He won't always take those opportunities, though, unless he sees them presented. I think it's going to be on Shaggyshenk to make sure he doesn't misstep or misplay. The big thing for Reals here is going to be the soul pick, and if he elects to prioritize it, he needs to make sure that he gets ahead in lane, because that's been the biggest problem with Soul so far, is that they're very aggressive, but they've been matched up against Neath, and Neath don't really let them get ahead.
Well, with Reals, he's going to be matched up with Badgah. With Reals being aggressive, do you think that Badgah has to be a bit more passive, or is he going to be aggressive as well?
It sounds to me like Badgah is more of a complementary support, whereas if he plays with a composition that's super aggressive, he's going to himself turn to an aggressive player, versus if they have a more defensive comp, he'll be more conservative of his playstyle. About the course of like a year, I think, when I played in EU, Badgah sounded more like he would fulfill the role of the specific god that was proper to the team. So Sobek look for the pluck, obviously. Gab B, more defensive. Gab Blink ultimate. So I think he's solid. Is he solid enough to take on LC? I guess we'll see. In this season, they've proven to be able to, but now we're at the regionals, so who knows?
Do you think we'll see Khepri pick for both of these supports?
Khepri has had a really good showing so far, but as far as I know these EU folks love to run the Ares Emir. I'm looking forward to these. It's a signature from EU side, so I'm really hoping for this. But as I said, Khepri has been really good. Combine him with Soul, combine him with a Zhonghui, any really good god that can burst people, make him survive that initial combo on them, and then they keep wreaking havoc. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, we saw Ares out of EmilZy, or EmilZy, as I like to say.
Yeah.
But we also saw him pick Xing. When would you prefer to pick Xing for support over solo lane?
I think when we saw Xing, at least in that last matchup, that was a specific counter pick for Eager against Envy there. It was simply the fact that both those gods are very powerful, Xing and Bellona, and they were also able to ban away Osiris. I don't think we're really going to be seeing Xing prioritize the support role here too much, especially EmilZy. He really likes hard initiations, and I would say that Xing doesn't have the best initiation because his ultimate, it actually has about a half a second tick before the windup will catch people. Yep. So you can't kind of get those blink cataclysms, you know, the pulls from Sobek or the blink taunts or dash in taunts. It's just not fast enough. He works better in the solo lane, I think, rotating. And I think EmilZy, though, going to focus on these pretty defensive supports like Khepri and Geb. And if they're looking for an aggressive style to really take advantage in the mid game, it'll be Athena's.
So we saw Zyrhoes go Neath mid, and although they went 0-3, that Neath mid, I believe at like the 13-minute mark, was 7-1 or something. So do you think we're going to see another Neath mid?
I think we could see a Neath mid. It's something that FnATIC really likes to run, but they need to be more aggressive against with it. Because last time they played Paradigm, I believe that was the game they had Serket in the jungle, and they were facing Zalia's Hell in the solo lane, and they didn't gank the Hell for 15 minutes. And they honestly lost that final game because they left Hell alone, let her get farmed. So if they have this Neath, they definitely need to look to be aggressive with it.
There's also the combination of them having the Geb that one time.
Yes,
because that counters Serket pretty hard.
Do you think we're going to see Hell get through this game?
No.
Just no?
No.
Nope.
But then why did they allow it through last time?
They messed up.
Oops.
Yeah. Well,
Just like don't forget about Xing?
I got a feeling that some of them thought that maybe Serket would counter it, which it does, unless you don't gank it for 15 minutes, and then by that point it's too late to do anything about it.
So the solo laners, Zashu versus maniaKK, how do these two players differ?
Well, maniaKK, we know he likes to play a lot of warriors in the solo lane. We saw a lot of Shaw coming out of him yesterday. Looking for him to play some tier today. Zashu played a very fantastic Xing on the first day, and I don't really see FnATIC giving Zashu the Xing.
I couldn't imagine, but he also has, you know, Osiris and Bellona. He's shown really well games with all those gods. But matchup-wise, do you give it to maniaKK or do you give it to Zashu?
I have to lean it a little bit more towards maniaKK just for the sheer experience, but it's going to come down to the matchup at the end of the day.
What kind of matchup do you want to see in the solo lane, Payne?
I do not want to see Bellona or Xing. These guys have proven to be extremely effective. They dominate lane if one gets one against none of the other. I would like to see, if possible, the tier. If possible, the Chalk, because obviously we've seen it a couple of times in the current states of the game. But not these two really strong gods. Maybe even a Khepri. We've seen it last matchup. I think it was Cyclone Spin that brought Khepri.
But do you feel like Khepri really works? At the few games that he's been in, it doesn't seem to be doing too well.
Well, I like to pick up Khepri because a lot of people are running Zeus, Zhonghui right now. If you cage Zeus or Zhonghui with your ultimate, you did basically half the job of your team by yourself, because by that point they're stuck there. So you can burn them with your whole team and you form a wall, which means that no one can really help them unless they jump into the wall. So that's why I like the pick there.
You say you don't want to see Xing or Bellona, so meaning that you think that they're going to get banned out, but it seems like people are prioritizing mage bans. When do you ban out a mage compared to a warrior or even a guardian?
I guess it depends on what the style the team you're facing runs. I know enemy, like, you can't really ban out mages against them outside of the high priority like Zeus and Zhongs, because they can run gods like Agni, Isis, maybe not so much Isis, but they run a lot of Agni, which
Hades.
complements their kind of style. Hades as well, though we didn't really see it this tournament.
In Scrim we did, but not in
just didn't work out. So I think it depends on the style that you're seeing and what your team is looking to prioritize. If you want to ban out certain mages, like outside of the Shell, a lot of teams were picking up Zhong to counter Zeus, simply because the Zeus can't kill the Zhong by the time the Zhong gets his full ult off and the combo's there. Now that we're seeing Shell, it's a little bit different, but it really depends on the style you're trying to run and what priority picks you're looking for.
Well, what kind of styles do these teams have?
I mean, Luna Conspiracy are kind of unique in the sense that they are running the Scylla Naja Wombo combo. No other team's really running it. You look at North America and kind of a standard meta has developed, and Europe a little bit similar, although they'll kind of branch off into different soul laners like Chalk and Isis. Luna Conspiracy, though, I honestly think they could bring out anything because they have been scrimming North American teams. And we actually talked to Dignitas after, unfortunately, they lost to Paradigm, but they said a lot of what they did was scrim North American teams like Enemy and kind of bring that style in. So I think London Conspiracy's best chance against FnATIC here is if they incorporate some of the style from North America into their own game plan.
Well, let's go over predictions. Anatoly, best of 3. Who do you give it to?
Well, it's not a best of 5. I gave it to FnATIC earlier against Paradigm 3-2, and today it's going to depend on if FnATIC did their homework against London Conspiracy and if they execute correctly. They're usually a slower-paced team, but I feel like they're going to have to speed it up a little bit. And if they do speed it up, I can see FnATIC winning 2-0 here.
But not too aggressive, right? We've seen all these teams who seem to be... But is it good to be over-aggressive against a team that is so passive?
As long as you have the right advantages, you have to exploit them.
But what's... I know I keep on prying more and more and more, but what are those advantages that they need?
Like we saw in the last game where Eager got a... Purple buff invades constantly. They invaded 3:15, they invaded around 6:30, and then they just kept getting little advantages from there. So FnATIC's going to have to find similar opportunities and try to exploit it wide open, and then go for like maybe a Gold Fury off of a pick or two.
It definitely seems like the main story of this entire tournament is who can engage and who can counter-engage and disengage well. I know you guys keep saying it comes down to the picks and bans, but in all honesty, against that game that we saw last, Eager versus Envy, it wasn't really about the picks and bans. It was more so about who was able to like counter-initiate better. And out of these two teams, who do you think can do that better, Adonis?
I mean, it kind of does come down to the picks and bans, though. Like, because you look at Eager versus Envy, and you know, Envy kind of got baited in the Merc first pick, and then we saw the Xing Bellona immediately come out. They had 2 solo lane dominators, and then they face it up against Bacchus, and we saw Omega kind of control cycle and spin early, able to rotate out of his lane. After that, it was the fact that Eager, because they had that Isis, Thor, and then who else was invading with them?
It was the Xing Chen support.
Yeah, they were able to rotate in. They didn't get first blood on income, but they forced them out because they had such a very strong core. And then after that, they were able to constantly invade those purple buffs. And just because their core was so strong, mostly Isis, because Isis is so good as long as she doesn't get pressured out early. She's just the strongest mage pre-5. And then even when she hits 5, her ult is still very strong, although maybe not as strong as like an aggressive Ra or an aggressive Poseidon where you can just like burst someone down. But you're able to constantly invade and put pressure on.
Do you think we're going to see any unique gods in this matchup?
I don't think we're going to see anyone we haven't seen yet. I think we're going to see pretty meta. I'd say the wildest thing we'll see is Scylla, and that's just simply because London Conspiracy really like that combo.
All right, well, who do you give it to?
I think if London Conspiracy win game 1, they're going to win game 2. I think it's going to be a 2-0 if LC could take game 1. And I think...
Are you saying that
I think it's weird because I think FnATIC are the better players, but it really is going to depend on how they took their loss yesterday because they were incredibly frustrated. Some of the players around heard kind of the stuff they were saying, and they were very unhappy with themselves amongst each other. If they don't bounce back from that, London Conspiracy is going to win. I think they're the better players. I think they can draft better than they did yesterday, but I think it's really hurt them. I think just like Envy, honestly, losing to you guys kind of get in their own heads. I think FnATIC getting 3-0'd, I think it was too much for them. LC's going to take this.
Kane, when you do have those emotions running high, how do you come back from that?
It's so hard. It's such a specific thing because every single player has a different way to deal with it. Some players are more pride-driven than others. They have a hard time admitting that they lost another player. They feel like they should be winning because they think the opposite side, their counterparts, is not as good as them. In that sense, I'm not sure if FnATIC acts that way. Obviously, if they lost 3-0 and they come in today thinking that they should have won and they only think about that matchup and then they think about LC, they lose first game, then they think, wow, again, like we should be winning, and then they're going to lose 2-0 directly. If they win first game, momentum's back to them. I don't think LC is pride-driven at all, so I would not count them out after the first game if they lose. But I think this is going to be probably LC 2-1. Close, very, very close. I think FnATIC's going to win game 1, and then LC's going to bounce back game 2, and then off that they will win game 3.
Who has the better chance against Eager?
Well, I think it's going to depend on if FnATIC show up today. I think London Conspiracy doesn't have as much experience as Eager does, and I think FnATIC is the only ones that can really compete with them in terms of LAN experience. Like once they get that click and overcome that hump, then they're going to be able to just...
Don't we know that LAN experience doesn't mean anything, though?
Not according to this.
I mean, we got this gentleman right here, right, where 4 of the players are new to LANs.
He kind of talked about it, though, right? It's like, honestly, you may not have all expected to win, expected the upset. And so they were never in their own heads when they lost and got down. And I think some of the other teams have been in their own heads. I do think FnATIC, though, is the only team that can beat Eager. I think London Conspiracy is going to win here, but I don't think they can beat Eager.
All right, well, we're about to find out, everyone. It's London Conspiracy versus FnATIC in Game 1.
Welcome back to the desk, ladies and gentlemen. It's the afternoon, and it's Saturday. My name is FDOT, joined here by Hinduman, and of course, the former support, now mid laner, although it might be a little ambiguous. Either way, it's the captain of Envious. His name is Incon. How you doing today, bud?
Doing wonderful. How about you, FDOT?
Doing fantastic. I mean, we've got a wonderful set of games. You guys played. We had a wonderful set with you guys in Eager right before this. We're going to get into the European side of things. London Conspiracy versus FnATIC. And this is wild card day. This is where everybody sort of gets the second chance.
And the one thing about this storyline between LC and FnATIC is, on paper, nobody would have really seen this being the matchup for EU. We would have put, a lot of people thought LC out day one, FnATIC through like yesterday. Wasn't the case. Both these teams now find themselves here. And their records are one of the most interesting things. This split, 2-2. Previous split, 1-1.
Ooh.
They're even. And today, for a chance to face off against NA for the wildcards, that's going to change.
So the tiebreaker pretty much.
The tiebreaker and the tiebreaker. It's crazy.
It's today, and don't forget, FnATIC and LC will go on to face Eager, who came up on the top side of this, of their match earlier on today, and that, of course, will be the winner of that match, winds up going to SWC. These teams have to win and beat some of the best teams in the world to get there, but all you have to do is check out online, swc.smitegame.com, pick up a set of your own tickets today. You guys can pick those up, and then, of course, settle some travel arrangements, and we'll see you down there.
And that's going to be the final team you'll find out as well from NA and EU today. Will be found out. And let's go on to the match today, Incon, as well. You guys, if you had to choose to face off, because you were in this predicament a little bit earlier on, who would you rather have faced? Would it have been LC or FnATIC?
Me, personally, I would have rather gone against London Conspiracy. We had been scrimming against them all day yesterday. We felt pretty good against them. We were getting good practice. We were winning the majority of our scrims. That would have been the best for us, just because for us with FnATIC, we've never really played them. We had no idea what they'd be picking. We'd have to go back and do all this more studying to go back and get used to them, so definitely would have been London Conspiracy.
Not for nothing, FnATIC also is a little bit more storied as far as it comes to an land experience, although, as Kelly pointed out before, some of the teams here have succeeded despite having no land experience, so that's something to think about. But you mentioned that you were scrimming London Conspiracy all day yesterday. Hinderman, do you know who FnATIC was scrimming?
FnATIC haven't been scrimming since their loss, from what I understand. They may have looked for scrims, but they wanted a break after it, obviously, to get through the emotions of the day. And they haven't scrimmed today, from what I understand, either. So LC have been putting the nose to the grind block, so to speak, and really putting the pressure on and trying to get these extra scrims in. FnATIC, they tried a little bit later on yesterday, haven't found anything since.
Right. I honestly think that this match really boils down to exactly what Adonis said before. I think he hit the nail on the head when he said people recognize that FnATIC might be the more talented team, give or take, but it's all about how are FnATIC feeling after yesterday. London Conspiracy, I've seen the guys, a lot of people have been speaking to them. They seem to be in high spirits and they're very confident coming in. FnATIC, a little bit of a question mark on that side of the coin. With a 3-game series, they're going to have to be ready to play.
Well, they are ready to play, clearly, because already they're going, no Cherryo, no Nijar. We're
Right.
not seeing the Nijar-Cherryo, sorry, the Nijar-Scylla combination coming out from you. He has been very strong on that. It's worked well for him. So taking that one off the table means, where is Cherryo going to go? I did speak to him after the first games, and he was saying he'd really like to play Thor, because normally he was very scared of it because he plays in a very high ping. And now he's like, I like that idea of trying Thor out. We may see it today.
I do like the ban coming out for FnATIC. Yesterday, when we were scrimming London Conspiracy, we were practicing not only banning Nezha for Eager, but against as well London Conspiracy. And he was playing Thor, and you could tell he was not nearly as comfortable with it as he was with the Nezha.
Freya banned out as well. Real shot by London Conspiracy, but a lot on the table here. Zeus, Sol, as well as Bellona, Xing, tian. We saw them in the previous games, but FnATIC, they're going for that strong mid lane presence here for Zyrhoes. Zeus picked up.
It's an interesting choice for FnATIC. Zeus, although it's an interesting choice going by the sense that we haven't really seen it too much in the regular season coming out, but with the recent changes, he's been all over this land, and Zero's no exception. LC goes for the Xing tian, another character that's been very strong this particular land, and then Thor, which we just spoke about.
Now Thor, obviously, I think it's good for him to go for that one and take it away from Captain Twig as well. Really, Sir Ket is on the table, and Hun Batz are the two that he'll go to. He chooses the Hun Batz. Will we see a Bellona here is my question. I don't really want to see you Xing 10 being on the same side as Bellona.
Yeah, it's hard to pick Bellona right here. There's a Khepri that's a great pick. That's been getting banned out a lot this tournament. I'd actually like to see a tier coming out against the Xing 10. It's the best counter to it. Xing 10 does counter Bellona in the lane, so you'd be picking into your own counter.
That's true. So Ice is actually locked up for the mid lane for aero. There's no Scylla this time for him. He's not got the wombo with a Thor this time. Well, at least he doesn't trust it as much. Conspiracy coming into this very confident. You can actually see on their faces they do look quite confident in themselves. And when you look at how their season's gone against FnATIC, I can understand why.
London Conspiracy, one of the less experienced teams, I would say, especially in comparison to FnATIC, a squad that's been together for so very long. And one of the downsides about being together for so long is that your strategies are generally known, and Neath is a character that FnATIC absolutely adores in multiple roles, so LC takes it away.
Talking about strategies here, take away the Athena from EmilZy. EmilZy is a very hyper-aggressive support player. He leads from the front line as well and is the shot caller for the team during team fights. So he may be going for this Xing 10, but if they don't believe it, FnATIC here, that's why they've gone for the Athena ban. And Athena off the table for him is going to be probably Gary falls back to, unless he is on that Xing 10. We'll see where they go.
I'm really liking that Xbalanque pick. The one thing I was concerned about for London Conspiracy was their late game currently. They had Thor Isis, which is going to be great for the early game pressure, getting those mid-harpies off, but they really didn't have anything to transition for the late game damage outside of the Xing 10, who was just going to be sitting in the backline taking no damage, but not quite dishing out as much as they needed.
On the other hand, FnATIC, they've got late game when it comes to Zeus. Hun Batz is nice that mid game, and then Rama is a hunter that sort of touches all portions of the game, but Realzx absolutely phenomenal on this character.
Absolutely nothing crazy about these picks and bans coming through from the team. I expected a Geb, but a Bacchus is just the same sort of front line you're looking for when your support is going to be aggressive, very aggressive and looking to engage for your team all the time. His Athena does it, so does Bacchus.
It's actually interesting because we've seen Bacchus come out from EmilZy in the past, Hindu Man, haven't we, during the regular season? And it's kind of interesting because when I look at EmilZy, I kind of feel more defensive than aggressive, honestly. He doesn't strike me like the Tricks tanks of the world. I generally see some of the Gebs, but Bacchus is sort of the exception when it comes to LC.
Bacchus has kind of had a rise in the EU though, and EmilZy, he's only picked it once against Justice so far this season.
Right.
But when you've seen the other supports in Europe, like Tricks tank, like Badgah, they've been going to it as well. It seems to have come back with better flavor. Is there a reason we've not seen it in NA, you think, here in Con?
It's not a particular pick that's favored. We really like those defensive picks, you know, and he's more of an aggressive pick.
Well, there's the boys of FnATIC and London Conspiracy getting themselves set for this first one. Based on picks and bans in Con here, how are you feeling about the two teams? Where would you rather be?
Right now, I'd rather be on FnATIC. I'm really enjoying their lineup. Even though the Bellona is getting counter-matched by the Xing 10, she's still such a strong character just to bring to the team fight. You've got the Khepri for the ults, which I love in combination with the Zeus. You want to focus down the Zeus, and all of a sudden you can't.
Right there, we just got a glimpse of Deathians on the right side, London Conspiracy's coach, and then Ependary, both coach and substitute. We actually got to see Ependary step in while Captain Twig is away during the regular season, and, I mean, he put up some MVP numbers himself. With that said, FnATIC going to come onto the field with their standard lineup. Captain Twig in the jungle on that Hun Batz, and the rest of his team playing support.
So it looks like we're going to see double power pots coming from both mid laners and junglers here as well. You can see Zyrhoes is hovering in base, waiting for his power pot before he actually procs it here. They're both looking for this early game aggression in the mid lane in Con. Who has an advantage here, really?
Isis will generally have the advantage here. Her Wingus almost completely clears the way with Purple Pot at level 1 with that red buff. Although Zeus clears it very fast as well. If Isis can body block the autos on the Zeus 2 in the middle of the lane, he won't be able to clear before her.
Did actually see the power pot wasn't taken in the end. He sat there and changed his mind and he's gone for the safer start. So just in case he gets too much pressure here?
Yeah, at this point, without the power pot, Isis, if she plays it correctly, should have that advantage in the mid lane, allowing them to get their right side harpies with the Thor. Thor Xing 10 clear isn't so strong. Bellona Hun Batz is pretty good. They'll have some pretty good clear, so Hun Batz may be able to get to that mid lane before the Thor does in this case.
Now, you did mention earlier on, because I mentioned the Bellona Xing 10, and Bellona, not a great matchup for, not a good matchup against Xing 10. Xing 10, they're a bit stronger in the laning phase. Early game, Bellona does pretty well, because obviously Guardians take a couple of levels, but then Xing 10's going to kick in, and Bellona may have trouble here.
Yeah, Bellona's going to have, like I said, she'll get to the lane early. She'll be able to do that. The early game won't be too bad. It's once you start transitioning into Xing 10's mid game, that's when he really becomes a problem for the Bellona. But if FnATIC can manage to just get the rotations off of the solo lane, that won't be a problem anyway.
Zeus meeting here in the mid lane to see up with Aero's Isis. And as we predicted, I mean, this is very standard. Zeus is going to have to sit on the tower for a couple of waves. Isis is one of the most dominant gods pre-level 5 in the game.
Were you surprised Twig didn't even look to go aggressive there on the ISIS just to try and like poke at those minions?
It's really hard with the ISIS having purple pot. Any risk you take there, you can just take so much damage from the Spirit Ball. Particularly with Zeus, if he tries to go in, and you never know what if Thor got his stun and they get walled off plus the Spirit Ball. Crazy things can always happen with Thor
So
ISIS.
Harpies get split. You can see the pressure that Conspiracy can put on the map early on with this Thor ISIS combo. Looking to invade the jungle. The back Harpy's pretty standard. It's taking a little time for the FnATIC boys to clear this one out, but they should be well aware of where these two are going.
FnATIC's going to not to meet up, and again, it's the reason we see the invade come out from the guys on London Conspiracy is just the sheer quickness of how they clear. But entering this mid lane by this route might be a little dangerous. There's a slow out of the monkey jump, and ISIS is in some trouble if we get a couple of big hits. But here comes Thor. Either way, first blood goes the way of FnATIC, but Thor able to clean one up very quickly. Cherryo on top of the second kill. Zyrhoes not going to let him get
Cherryo
two.
may be in a bit of trouble there as well. Luckily, the minions didn't continue aggroing him. If he managed to hit the double tap there, though, that could have been a different story, and he could have found a 2-for-1. But at the moment, LC definitely come out on top, and you can see them abusing the situation with the push in the top left-hand corner, stealing away back Harpies.
Another big thing there was ISIS lost her purple pot. That's going to be huge. She didn't get to utilize almost any of it, besides the fact that they got one back Harpy off it, but that's not going to be enough to bring her back into that.
It was just strictly the pathing that we saw London Conspiracy took. If London Conspiracy opted to go the long way and go all the way back to the entrance closer to their base, that wouldn't have been a kill at all, let alone a first blood.
A little bit of aggression from both teams here, but with Captain Twig coming in, may see EmilZy get caught out. Bellyflop was just using that engagement now. Luckily for them, Twig's still not level 5, but the poke pressure's good. Thor is here with a good wall. Can he save them? Yes, he can. Beautifully played there by Cherryo.
Brilliant wall coming out of Thor to save his team. If he wouldn't have shown up, EmilZy 100% would have been dead. There was also a missed pluck there by Badgah. Didn't end up mattering during that team fight, but that was a really solid play from Thor.
Cherryo just exemplifying. We always mention how Thor has two sides. He's either aggressive and he can also bring a lot of utility. That right there, that's the utility. It's not just a stun. It's actually a deployable wall as well. So can't walk through that one. Thor, on the other hand, getting aggressive in the mid lane right on top of Zyrhoes.
Pretty sure if that connected, we could have seen another kill go to London Conspiracy there, but unfortunately Cherryo just a little bit too far away to connect with Zeus. The follow-up was there from Aero, but he just didn't have the right timing.
That's the most standard play I've ever seen coming out there from Thor. Every time we scrimmed them at second heat level 5, he was looking to immediately ulti the mid lane. And it's very smart as Thor because the mid laners won't have BJ, they won't have Aegis, they have no way to get away. If you hit the ultimate, you wall them off, completely dead.
And that's exactly how London Conspiracy have played in this tournament. They've allowed this jungle mid laner to group together. EmilZy and Shaggy, they're used to playing together as well. And they've just left Zashu solo and become 2 sets of 2 across the map and really fought well. That's what's allowed them to get to this stage right now against FnATIC.
It's that familiarity. Like you said, EmilZy and Shaggy, they're used to playing with each other. They've been on the same team for a long time. Even before London Conspiracy, they shared a team prior to this season, and it was a different one. So definitely a lot of familiarity between the teammates in that concern. London Conspiracy have a ward on FnATIC's side of the jungle, so they definitely have all the info in the world as to who's going to be crossing over that mid lane.
So mid-camps are split there, but you can see FnATIC shared it 4 ways as well, not just like the 2 that we saw from LC. Meanwhile, purple buff picked up as well there for Shaggyshenk. He's going to be heading back to lane 2. Still working on that Transcendence here. Pretty much a standard lane in the duo that we expect to see. Really just the aggression that came out and Thor saving the day.
I'm a little bit surprised not to see Realzx have a slight gold advantage right now over the Xbalanque. Bacchus Xbalanque must have been getting pushed under the tower as they were because FnATIC took the back Harpies, and there's still no gold lead onto Realzx. In fact, 60 gold up right now because of the purple buff is Shaggyshenk. And on a Xbalanque, if you can stay even while getting pushed for the first 4 minutes of the game, that's a win.
Is it a big win though with Rama? Rama Xbalanque late game kind of similar, right? Or are you
They're kind of similar, but Rama Khepri has so much better push than the Bacchus Xbalanque does, which means if they're not taking advantage of these little tiny things early, it could transition into the later parts of the game.
Captain Twig shading to the right-hand side, just to opt to help his friend. Looked like might have wanted to take a look towards the Bellona, but opting instead just to clear the buff, help out his own teammate.
It's been a good start so far for Conspiracy because I think they need to get off to a very good beginning. I feel the one mistake they made was the transition back to mid lane where First Blood happened.
Right.
A little bit of lack of respect, and I actually believe they thought FnATIC were going to go for the back Harpies there more than anything. So they didn't expect to find the Zeus waiting for them, and getting caught in that little pincer situation was lucky in the end Cherryo turned it around the way they did.
Yeah, and they might have even thought that they would have had the better fight with having the Isis plus Thor early, and it's just a Hun Batz. Hun Batz doesn't have the best early game, but Zeus really showing how strong he is when he gets that chain lightning off all by himself.
I mean, we saw Twig miss his overhand smash when that engagement happened, and just used the somersault and in-hands, but Zeus's damage was just good enough to bring him down. His in-hands plus the detonating chain lightning paying really good work.
London Conspiracy, though, has built a good comp around this Zeus. They're going to be able to Bacchus jump in on him, Thor ult in. You're going to have all kinds of crazy skills going on him in the back, and they need to be able to put that pressure on. But the problem is going to be with this Khepri. Khepri with the damage reduction, with the ability to just throw the ultimate on Zeus, is going to be 5 seconds of free time for Zeus to just use all of his skills. He'll be guaranteed to get his detonate off, or he'll just revive and then do more skills.
So this right side solo lane, you were talking about how Bellona is sort of countered by Xing. Right here we see Bellona sort of leading this lane, and that's almost expected. Xing will come online in a little bit once you get some items. But so talk to me about the matchup. Why is this so heavily favored for XT?
This is right about the time it's going to start going in the favor of Xing. You're going to see that if he plays this correctly, he's using his harass on to the opponent rather than on the wave. Mania will not be able to deal with that damage coming out. Once that Furious Roar gets really ranked up to level 4 where you're getting that max percentage damage, it's so hard to deal with as a solo lane.
And then you can also cancel the bludgeon as well. You can get the up-down knock-up as well. That can help out. But aggression onto Badgah is a little bit caught out.
Stunned up on top of the wall. He's forced to use the ultimate on himself, but a quick follow-up. Aero picks up the kill thanks to the Isis ultimate. Thor dunks down onto the mid laner. Zero's in some trouble. No escapes for the Zeus, but he might find himself underneath the tower. Here comes the rest of FnATIC, sandwiching London Conspiracy in between themselves and the tower. maniaK's rotation picks him a kill. Captain Twig gets one for himself. Taken to the sky as Realzx, raining down artillery.
Finds them both, and that's going to allow Twig to pick up the kill. But the biggest talking point there was maniaK's rotation with the teleport. He came in that fight, picked up a kill, and pushed EmilZy out. They had to scatter, and immediately FnATIC cleaned that up. And now, by the looks of it, they may get a gold Fury.
Yeah, that right there, that is standard Realzx, if you ask me. Playing the Ram, so often we see Realz's Ram provide the damage from a distance for the chase targets. And then Captain Twig right following up to secure the kill, and that of course leads directly to the objective very early on. 8 minutes on the clock, 2,600 gold in the lead for FnATIC.
Notice anything crazy there, Incon? Was there anything that stood out to you as a mistake?
Yeah, there was a couple things there. It was a really great play overall for FnATIC, really going to Mania, getting that early teleport with Zashu not being able to come over. All of a sudden, you have an extra person in the fight. Not to mention, this is exactly what they needed to do with the Bellona against Xing matchup. They need to get that Bellona rotating early, and they're doing it, not letting that Xing get there to farm until late game, and then he can do whatever he wants.
Well, maniaK with a fantastic rotation there. Be able to pick up his blue from Twig after he calls back to base there. Continue to work on his itemization. Stone of Gaia, we're seeing this more and more out of these Bellonas when they're against the Xing, and also to deal with the Isis damage that's going to be coming from mid lane too. I'm worried about Conspiracy though, because their combo here of Thor Isis, they've not really found what they wanted to. They've looked for it a couple of times, but they've not found these dunk combos with the Spirit Balls. And as this game continues, it could become a factor when the whole team turns up for FnATIC, which they just did.
We'll take a look at how the Isis really goes into the late game, because I mean, the last combo, you say the 1-2 punch with the Thor and the Isis, and it's not as classic as some of the combos that we've seen out of the team before. Usually there's the setup with the Najah right into a heavy damage ultimate from Scylla. On the other hand, Isis, not really, there's damage, of course. Wingust and Spirit Ball do a lot, like we were discussing, but it's not a one punch, like a big shot out of Scylla. So the difference in technique and finesse might make an impact in the late game.
I did like the idea coming out of London Conspiracy, though, in that fight. They got a super early pick onto the Khepri, but they used a lot of their abilities in order to kill the Khepri, and they should have backed up. It may have been not the knowledge that they didn't know if Mania had the teleport,
that's the key.
Because once Mania showed up, it really turned the fight. If they could have just backed up off of that, they would have been totally fine, had a free pick, but instead they continued to fight what they thought was a 4v3. But
in the jungle, you can see a bit of aggression, and immediately EmilZy and Cherryo switch to the mid lane there. They don't want to be aggressed on. The red buff is available on that side of the map, though, and FnATIC should be aware of it, but they're not looking for something at the moment. They can see Shaggyshenk actually there just backing round that corner as we tune him to the solo lane again, where Zashu still being pressured in this lane.
Take a look at maniaKK versus Zashu as we're sitting here in the solo lane. And maniaKK historically just a much more storied player than Zashu. maniaKK's been a part of this FnATIC squad for a long time. Really made a name for himself via Joust, believe it or not. Zashu, a little newer, wet behind the ears.
wet behind the ears, but what his role is on the team is to actually be the frontline aggressor. You see maniaKK going for a little bit more divey for the kills, where we've seen Zashu. He started to adopt the NA mentality from playing against these North American solo laners. He started to pick gods very similar to what we seen out of North America all the time, and he's very good in that role. He's very similar to an Omega, frontline, be in the face, keep him out of the engagement, bask in too.
Yeah, the Xing is a character that really saw more prominence in North America than Europe. And as we spoke to the guys, hold that thought. Here comes Captain Twig, dropping the totem right in between, spreading London Conspiracy in 3 separate directions. Thor's going to take to the sky, and now Captain Twig's in some trouble. But Badgah shows up, secures the heal, but EmilZy's able to take out Captain Twig 2 times. Aero picks up 1, but here comes Zero, taking out his mid laner, and help from the side. Realzx rains held down, but it's not enough to get the kill.
Not enough to get the kill. Now, what happened for that engagement was FnATIC got a great ultimate off from Hun Batz, but they picked separate targets.
Yeah.
Zeus went straight on top of the Fear No Evil, so they all got pushed out of it. Then they tried to pick a target together. Didn't find as many as they could in comp.
It was a pretty good play as well from Aero. He threw down a beautiful Isis ultimate that not only had his entire team in it, but had the res of the Hun Batz and the Khepri inside of it. The second the Hun Batz res, instantly pops the ultimate, gets the kill back on the Hun Batz, kills the Khepri in a fight in favor of London Conspiracy.
Yeah, for sure. I really agree with favored London Conspiracy, especially when FnATIC with the engagers there.
Yep.
They didn't find it as clean as they could. If Realzx maybe found 1 or 2 more snipes, if he had 2 more available, he definitely would have picked up a double there. Would have worked out, but a good rotation from him too, just to really try and impact that fight.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot of Realzx just try to make this impact. And right now, the first time it worked, the second time not so much. So we'll see how it all happens out as London Conspiracy takes on FnATIC. It's best of 3 right now, all pretty much even. Despite that last one is concerned, FnATIC leading by about 2,000 gold, 5-4, and pretty much that gold lead is off of the back of a Gold Fury we saw earlier on.
Who would you be happy to be as right now in this situation? Because both teams still looking pretty good.
Right now, FnATIC is really, with the Zeus being 2-0 and of course being one of the best, if not the best, late game mages, I'm really favoring that. All they have to do is kind of chill back a second. They had an engagement that maybe they were trying to force a little bit too much.
Yeah.
The Gold Fury is coming up. They had a great earlier fight around the Gold Fury. They need to wait for that. They have great AoEs around the Gold Fury. That's where they need to be.
There's also the learning, FnATIC has to have learned after that last experience. Like we said, the Zeus ult went right on top of the Fear No Evil, which Fear No Evil spreads out, not brings together. So just look at that. Zeros goes, okay, my bad. Next time I'll reposition it. And as long as FnATIC is able to make that adjustment for the next team fight, I think that their composition will work a lot better in their favor.
Well, Gold Fury at the moment, you can see wall coverage is for London Conspiracy right now. I believe they understand what Income is saying there, and they're trying to make sure they don't give a free opportunity for FnATIC to try and engage on them there and bait them into a bad fight. So keep an eye around, because you're probably going to see FnATIC start swinging that way to start clearing wards themselves soon.
Zeus has finished his Warlock Sash, which is going to be incredibly important. With having no escape skills, it's going to be very important for him to start stacking that health. Also, not to mention, he has a huge lead right now on the Isis. Not to forget, the Isis had Purple Pot, so he's actually an additional 400 gold ahead on top of that, looking towards a 1k gold lead. Isis, on the other hand, going for the Spear of the Magus for the early damage, going to leave herself exceptionally squishy.
The Warlock Sash is actually relatively interesting, considering the tournament meta, what we've seen this past week. Seeing the Warlock Sash on Zeus is normally very standard, but we've seen a lot of these players opt for the Ethereal Staff, and essentially the difference between these 2 items is immediate impact versus later impact, but a bigger one.
I think the big difference is the stage of the game too. Less than 14 minutes in the game and getting that online, that's fine. I think if we carried on going a little bit later, we would have seen him probably opt for the Ethereal Staff. This situation though, he's definitely favoring this one.
What it's telling me right now is that Zyrhoes and FnATIC in turn they're looking to stretch out the laning phase as long as possible. If we see the Ethereal Staff, then it tells me we're going to see more rotations, more team fights around the objectives. This, to me, when the Gold Fury's up, let's go fight for it. But other than that, let me get my stacks on, let me hang out in the lane, and I'm a Zeus. I'll see you at 30 minutes.
You say that, but look at the siege coming out from FnATIC there. You all grouped around the Gold Fury for a second. I think it was just more to de-ward and see if they could find a pick.
Exactly.
Didn't find one for now. They're going to get right-hand Harpies here as well. And as they go towards the late game here, FnATIC now, as the game continues, look towards Zashu, look towards Shaggyshenk, because the time of Cherryo and Aero is starting to come to an end here now, and they'll be the focal points that they need to watch out for, because Zashu could really make an impact here. He's not been hurt in this lane so far, but he may have to step up.
Fear No Evil on the right-hand side of the left side of the jungle, and Zyrhoes picks up a quick kill thanks to the placement of the ultimate. You see? Learn and burn. That's exactly what FnATIC did. Instead of putting it on top, puts it right where players are walking in, and Zyrhoes picks up the kill on an aero.
You caught the spur the Megastar, and you see how quickly he got bursted down in con. They had no chance to react. I mean, Cherryo was in the sky, but he just couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, he had a good ultimate off as well to try to defend himself, but now FnATIC is looking at a pretty free Gold Fury. London Conspiracy's got to get in here. They need that Xing 10 to dash in and get an ultimate off on Zyrhoes or something, but they're getting completely zoned out by Mania in the backline.
Totally zoned out. You can see EmilZy trying to go in, going to get abducted to silence out. Chain lightning bounces on EmilZy. He has to disengage. Over the wall goes maniaKK following him through. Badgah gets killed for the credit for the kill, and FnATIC pick up a Gold Fury for free as maniaKK continues the zone.
maniaKK doing the classic solo lane. It's actually very interesting for me. You take a look at London Conspiracy. You mentioned how Zashu plays a very North American style. maniaKK has always played a North American style solo lane. So while we're seeing two European clubs go at it right here, their solo laners look more like North American players. And at the end of that fight, a lot thanks to maniaKK zoning, 2 kills wound up going the way of FnATIC. London don't get anybody, and because of that, FnATIC's able to pick up yet another Gold Fury, securing their lead even more so. We're now looking at about 5,000 or just underneath.
It's a very interesting composition as well between both teams because of the fact that FnATIC have got this LAN experience, and they're really starting to show this off here. London Conspiracy, they're new to the scene for the most part. They've had a great tournament so far, just like the boys of Enemy, but right now, FnATIC are really just showing that they've been here before.
And I think the example of that is the Warlock Sash versus the Spear of the Magus right there. The LAN experience is showing, hey, I probably need to be a little bit
blink
tankier.
though, fear no evil, forced on aero. Aero will get out, and Cherryo aggressing onto Twig here. Twig a little bit caught out, but there's no going to be any further follow-up. A quick somersault, and he's good.
I love that idea from Captain Twig, though. He knew that Isis did not have his beads up yet, so he immediately went in for the ultimate. If his team would have been able to follow up a little bit better, they would have been able to get a free kill on aero. Good play by Thor and Bacchus, keeping them away, allowing aero to live.
That's what I looked at in that exchange, was the Thor wall. Cherryo again showing up and saying, all right, look, my Thor didn't necessarily come online. I'm 1-0-3.
Cherryo just went up. They may look for a pick on Badgah here because he was a little bit further forward, but Twig still under the tower here. And with Cherryo coming down, you can see no signs of aggression in the end.
Again, I like what Cherryo brings to this team. I think it's very valuable. Right now, after the early game is generally over, we need to see Thor be a little bit more control-oriented, and right there in the mid lane, saving the life of aero, that's what London Conspiracy needs more of.
Now, when we saw Cherryo go up there was a little bait coming out because aero was actually half health, but he stuck around in mid, and I think they were wanting him to try and dive him so they could do it as well. You even saw Shaggyshenk come all the way over and was in a position to gank middle lane as well. They wanted FnATIC to dive that, and unfortunately, they just didn't find it. I like the idea, but they lost quite a bit for it.
Well, here's the direct question I'm going to pose to you, Incon. How, because we see baits come out, and bait is one of the most popular terms used up here. How do you discern the difference between a legitimate opportunity and when a team is just baiting you into trying something dangerous?
It depends right there. If they knew the Thor was in the air, they may have heard the audio cue, which is a big part about Smiles is audio cues. If they heard the Thor go in the air, then there was no way they were going to get baited. Although with the Khepri, it gives them great opportunities. So even if the Thor's in the air, they're like, heck, we're going to go in regardless. I'll throw my ultimate on you. If they kill you, you're coming right back to me. We'll get the free kill.
And now we're going to continue the game at 18 minutes in. 7-4 is the scoreline. This is best of 3. Don't forget, the person who wins this, though, 2-1, 2-0, we'll find out, will go on to face Eager for the shot at the World Championship. Still the final spot remaining between North America and Europe.
As we bring up the player damage on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, shouldn't be any surprise. You've got a Zeus on top and the soul in Bellona right behind
A little bit
him.
surprised, though, that Xing 10's damage is a lot lower there. 6,000. Are you shocked by that, Incon? I feel like with the rest of the tournament, I've seen that a lot higher.
He's not really getting into the team fights. The problem, you can see his score is 0, 0, and 0. He has not been a part, really, of any of these fights. All of that damage that he has is coming from this solo lane poke.
Oh, hang on, Cherryo just went to the sky there as well, looking for a pick in mid lane onto this Zeus, but Zeus already has the Khepri ultimate on him, and the damage is being returned to Cherryo. Detonate goes off, but I believe that was an Aegis by Cherryo there that stopped him dying.
Badgah with the quick hands, able to put out the ultimate very fast on his mid laner. A little bit of poke going the way of the rotating reels as Ram gets caught out real quick in the forest.
That's going to continue to be a problem for London Conspiracy. You can see EmilZy still has his ultimate up. He could have used it to kill the Zeus if there was any other support on their team. But because of the Khepri, they're going to keep saving that ultimate for the Zeus and allow Zeus to do Zeus juice damage.
And one thing to note, Cherryo should have died, but he Aegis at the exact right time against that Detonate. Really surprised that he had the presence of mind to know exactly when it is, because when it's rank 1 Aegis, it doesn't last that long, and you've got to time that exactly right with the fist pump, so to speak, of Zeus.
Yeah, I always like to call it the trucker horn,
Oh,
right?
that's a better ball. Yeah.
The trucker horn is loud. It deals damage just like a truck coming right towards you. 7 kills over 4 for FnATIC. And look at this. FnATIC knows they have the timer, not just on their maps, but in their heads for the Gold Fury.
That's a good pick there. Unfortunately, Chain Lightning bounced onto the minions. Zyrhoes didn't expect it. He could have looked for a little bit more aggression off down to Cherryo if Zyrhoes was wise to Badgah going for the abduct there. Not too much really to worry about, though, for the time being. FnATIC definitely in control of this game.
I like what Realzx is doing with his pressure. So Realzx has taken down the tier 1 tower, just like a solo laner maniaKK has, who might be in a little bit of trouble. Able to jump away, not a big deal.
That's a lot more patient, actually, out of maniaKK. I just want to point that out, because yesterday wasn't as patient, and we saw him potentially get picked once or twice in the solo lane. That was pretty good.
So one thing that I like about Realzx is that he's been pushing up this lane and then hanging out in the middle of the jungle looking for the opportunity on the Gold Fury. It's spawned right now. There's a thought process. I'm not sure if FnATIC is going to go for the gold right now or not. Why don't we take a look with them and see what exactly they're thinking.
Are you in range?
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
There, mid now. Alright, we need wards on gold now. I can ward it. Yeah, the red is down. Red is down.
Yeah, I'll go get a sentry as well now. Need to upgrade my play.
Yeah, I'm big
They're
for
back
next
in.
fight.
Yeah, I'm
big
big
for
as
next
well,
fight.
man.
Bacchus Becky.
I'm big as fuck as well. I'm
Yeah,
like
we're
2k
six.
ahead of it.
We need to check the gold here though. Yeah, and Bacchus just back though.
Yeah, they're not
Check
on
it.
Should I normal ward it? No.
No,
Yeah,
what
they have
the?
a
We're
D ward on it. They have a
5.5.
D ward on
Nah,
it.
we wanna do it. We should just go and do this sometime. Like we're 5.5k ahead.
Go,
What
go.
the?
Ice is a bit.
Yeah, we can.
You can hear right there, just in the midst of everything, there's a little bit of lull in the action, but not a lull in the comms. Still always communicating, we need to ward, I'm going to back. The smallest things in communication can mean a lot. And then right before we came back, you heard the decision, hey, we're ahead. Why don't we just take the goal?
Well, you heard that whole conversation of them saying, we're huge. I'm big too. Me too. Me too. Me too. So it's about time to teleport the back from maniaKK, though. He's putting the pressure on aero. Cherryo's going to have to go up to dunk down to protect him. Meanwhile, EmilZy's trying to deal with 4 members as maniaKK's dealing with 3. EmilZy's going to be a casualty of 1. maniaKK walks away going, peace. My job is done.
Absolutely make the sandwich happen, and with that, FnATIC looking directly towards the gold tree. London Conspiracy forced to 4-man split their back Harpies and red buff because there's just not much to do here towards the objective. With Cherryo's ultimate down, there really was no way that London Conspiracy could have stopped that goal.
Zashu getting pressured here, but he is Xing 10. Big Spirit Ball will save him for a minute, and quickly the double dash will get him away from the danger. But immediately Twig going in deep, but he was alone. Snipes from Realzx.
That's what people expect out of this long-time hunter. Realzx completely on the mark, able to pick up the kill onto Xing from a distance.
Talk me through the fighting. The Gold Fury as a whole, where did it really go well for FnATIC?
It went well with FnATIC when they got Mania in that backline. You can see EmilZy was trying to do the solo lane for his team when Zashu was in the backline trying to peel. They needed Zashu up front and EmilZy in the back. EmilZy could not stay along nearly as live as maniaKK because he's got 5 levels on him. That was Zashu's job to be up front in that fight.
Keep an eye on that, and Zashu needs to switch positions with EmilZy in these next engagements if London Conspiracy want to get back into this one. I don't think FnATIC are going to let up steam here. Would you start aiming for Fire Giant already here?
If I was FnATIC right now, with this huge lead, I'd be looking to take down the rest of the towers around the map. They pretty much can be uncontestable. There's not much London Conspiracy can do, and they have a way better chance to fight on a tier 2 tower than they necessarily do on the Fire Giant. You never want to get randomly knocked up with 3 people and have 4 magma pools spawn on your ADC, something of that sort. The safe decision is to go for those tier 2s. They've not been making risky decisions all game either. They've been waiting for the gold for you to spawn over and over again because that's where they've been winning fights.
Yeah, I mean, we saw FnATIC in their earlier set. They maybe took a couple of risks, and where FnATIC didn't spend time scrimming, they definitely spent time around in a circle trying to talk through their last. I imagine they watched a lot of tape and just studied their mistakes because I don't think FnATIC really anticipated losing to Paradigm at least as swiftly as they did.
Not as swiftly, I was going to say, not as swiftly. They could have potentially seen the, not necessarily an upset, but they could have potentially seen them losing, but not as quickly. One thing about both these teams is they're both emotional teams. Difference is FnATIC will always end after the emotion of the game. If they lose, they'll end the emotion to be good. If they're riding the wave and they go up, they'll continue riding that wave and get stronger. London Conspiracy, though, the more I've watched them this week, keep an eye on Cherryo. He's my concerned subject because when he gets behind, you'll see his head drop. And when his head drops into the jungle, and he's been spoken about a lot, it could really hurt. And EmilZy here, the captain, he's got to keep his motivation and keep those shots coming. Those shot calling has to happen.
See, I'm the opposite. I've seen Cherryo really perform well in the face of adversity, not just here, but also in the past. We've seen him play on upcoming stars, which was not a successful team, and he, despite lack of success, shined. So I'm actually looking to Cherryo to help London Conspiracy out in times of need, rather than be the one to look at to be necessarily on tilt. So we'll take a look at how it works out.
So much so that he had to go to the sky. Meanwhile, on the backside, a great Eagles rally from maniaKK, but a good ult from Cherryo to save him. Snipes are coming raining down from Realzx, however. All three connect, but Cherryo survives, and a good wall should disengage most of his team.
EmilZy takes the brunt of the Zeus ultimate, which altogether maybe a little bit preemptive. FnATIC looking like they wanted to press onto the Phoenix, but with Zyrhoes using that ultimate, instead they're going to go and fall back, and you can see the pings. It's well known that Xbalanque has been split pushing, and maniaKK goes over to say hello.
It was a good try out of FnATIC there. They tried to force it a little bit too much. We saw Zyrhoes waste his ultimate, only use it onto EmilZy. He couldn't really get anybody else. They could have possibly used that opportunity to just cool down a second and look for the Phoenix push while Xbalanque was going for the tier 2. They decided it's not worth it. They're going to go back, make sure the Xbalanque resets, and go back looking for another team fight.
But you were calling out as well. You wanted to see Xing on the front side that time. He was there that time. You could see the zone created by him. Really helped Conspiracy. Zashu's starting to get in the mix now, which is where he needs to be. Conspiracy are correcting the issue so far, and they're not dropping kills and actually finding objectives while those engagements are going on.
He's starting to get a bit deeper into his build as well. He's got the full cooldown. He's got the ethereal staff. He's getting that emerald talisman online. That he's going to be so tanky, and all of his damage in this kit is just base. He doesn't need any actual damage items outside of the cooldown.
And he's also going to have that magical protection will help him against Zeus to be able to stand in there a little bit longer, added to his HP 5 regen that he gets naturally anyway. But it looks like FnATIC is still trying to force the issue here. I thought they're sieging up.
Yeah, FnATIC trying to just create space so that they can go into the fire giant. Right now, London Conspiracy trying to get as close as possible without putting themselves too much in danger. Love this decision. Rama is making it look like he's attacking the fire giant, but not really. Let's ride along with FnATIC while they try to pose this fake.
That's hammer, that's hammer.
I'm an initiate. I'm not.
Yeah, go, go.
Nice.
Nice. Aero
Nice
beast, aero beast, aero beast. I can ult you.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Aero's low, aero's low. Nice. I can ult you, don't worry.
Yeah, ult me then. Nice.
I'm fine.
Get out.
Careful. That's one kill, that's one kill.
Shit out, my
Shouldn't have ulted it either, I thought you were in danger. That's both my actives, by the way.
Yeah, we used every ult for that, by the way.
Yeah, we're still 4 on 5.
We're still so much stronger.
Do they have any ultis down?
I got bees.
Thor still has ult. I can one him.
Yeah.
Do it.
Him. Oh, he knocked it off.
Careful.
Okay, they're going in. Bacchus ulted.
Kill Bacchus.
Don't tank the tower. Rid it.
Okay, I'm fine. I come back into TP.
Let's back assault.
I'm back in TP.
He's spawning in 18.
I'm still low.
Back in TP again.
I do have ultis up.
Put a ward on. Put a ward on.
We don't have one.
Wait, yeah, you have. Put a fucking ward on.
Zyrhoes.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I'm coming in.
We force the tower then. We
got ult now.
We got creeps coming.
We can get this. I've got ult. Like,
Yeah, they back
do we back out
get
after?
the speed.
Yeah, we back out.
I'm gonna start backing.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Just someone stay.
Bellona
Stay around fire. Bellona stay around fire. I'm going gold.
Comms are so much better there from FnATIC. You can see how confident they are in it. They're not exactly clean in terms of PG clean, but at the same time, you can still see what they're actually looking to do in the engagements.
What I really liked there, and then kind of I want you to touch on this subject, is that FnATIC had a clear plan. Let's bait the fire giant and get them when they come and fight us. That didn't happen. They had a clear plan. Let's kill them on top of their tower, get the tower, then fire giant. That didn't happen because mistakes were made. Abilities were popped, Zyrhoes ulted the wall, a lot of things went wrong, but FnATIC was still able to wind up with that tower. Talk to me about the adjustment that FnATIC had to make there.
It was honestly a great play from London Conspiracy coming out. That was the best thing they could really hope for. They were trying to defend the tier 2 as much as they can while also simultaneously making sure they didn't get the fire giant. They didn't really have any vision. Bit of a misplay coming out from FnATIC, but they're so far ahead at this point that even if they're making mistakes, even if they're wasting Zeus ult, whether it be actives and whatnot, they're still getting the lead just because of how much power they can just put right into you. Levels across the board, you can see 3 levels on Captain Twig, Zyro 20, almost 20s across the board outside of the support on FnATIC. Still 2 levels on Badgah. That's a really big problem is these levels, not to mention, what, 13k gold?
Well, they didn't even get the fire giant that they were really looking for.
Exactly.
But they went and got Gold Fury anyway. Like, they still had the opportunity to do that. Bellona rotates over, team pick it up, and now once again they can start sieging this fire giant a second time. FnATIC looking very strong for game 1 here in Conspiracy. Well, they need an answer, but where's it going to come from, Incon? Shaggy?
At this point, Shaggy doesn't have any kills. He has no passive stacks. He doesn't have any crit online right now. We have a rage completed on the sides of Realzx, plus starting towards what seems to be a Deathbringer. Shaggyshenk's just not going to do any damage. He's going to get zoned out from Mania, who's got so many defensive items. You see that disgusting build coming out. Height of the Archon, Heavy Hammer, Runeforged Hammer. There's absolutely nothing you can do. Plus, if you ever decide you want to kill him, he pops Shield in the Underworld and you end up killing yourself.
Brutal. That's all there is to it. It's just brutal. 30 minutes in now, Fire Giant has been started. Badgah on zoning duty, and the rest of the boys of FnATIC come to defend too.
Fire Giant taken with relative ease for FnATIC. They lead by 6 kills, and they're trying to make it 11. EmilZy up on top gets taken out almost immediately, and maniaKK gets credit for that one.
That's one of their frontline engages there, and gone immediately. It looked like a lot of waste for him, 2 ultimates down, but it was worthwhile, right?
Yeah, when you get somebody down, any pick at this point of the game is huge, especially when it's somebody as big as EmilZy. That Bacchus drunk is huge in the middle of a team fight.
Zashu rooted out. That's going to give FnATIC enough space and time to really look towards this mid lane Phoenix. Already dead. There's a split pushing Thor, but I don't think FnATIC is all too concerned about it. They're just going to continue their push onto the base.
Looking for the Phoenix here as well as Zashu gets rooted a second time, has to leap away. Badgah quite happy to tank this up for days for his team. The Fire Giant will regen him after he disengages there. And it looks like we're going to see FnATIC take the safe option once again. There's no reason to make big mistakes here and give it way back in for LC.
London Conspiracy knew they couldn't fight there. You see, they basically gave up 2 free finishes. I like the idea with the Thor split push and getting a tier 2. Right. At least you get something. When you're down 14k gold, you can't really fight, particularly when your support and your initiation is down. You definitely can't fight. So they had to try to grab something. But at this point, I would probably be talking about my second game in comms.
Second game in comms.
Actually, that's an interesting thought process, and I want to get your opinion on this. Surrendering. When, yes, no, ever?
Maybe in an online setting you can surrender. You know, sometimes it gets a bit heated. When you're in person, though, you never surrender, particularly at a LAN. If you're ever behind, you always use that extra time to talking about your next game.
Call.
If this game is over, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't get mad at each other. Start talking about your picks and bans. Start talking about, okay, I couldn't handle the Zeus this game. Okay, we're going to ban out Zeus.
That's
we're
the
going to
question.
first pick Zeus.
That's the question.
Whatever that is.
Was it the Zeus then for you?
I don't necessarily think it was the Zeus, but just whatever is running through their mind, that's what they have to be thinking about right now.
Right.
It's okay to say, all right, this game is over. We got 2 more ahead of us. You can take it all as a best of 1.
Yep.
We got another best of 1, then we can win another best of 1. Always break it down into 1 game at a time.
Break into 1 game at a time, and FnATIC, well, they're going to take the first game this time round here with the tier 2 tower going down. They're now looking for the Phoenix. It's not all over just yet, but it's looking likely.
Exactly. The game might not be over, but all the towers certainly aren't. Not a single tower remaining on the map by name of London Conspiracy. The only structure up, actually, represented by purple, is going to be the left Phoenix, and that's exactly what FnATIC have their sights on. 4 members here in the left lane. We'll take a look at Captain Twig as he makes his way down the middle lane. Expect the monkey to jump on in and drop that ultimate.
They're waiting for fire minions more than anything else. Down the other lanes first of all. Now they can start looking at this left-hand Phoenix. There's no rush on this yet. They've still got Fire Giant for a little bit of time here, and then they can start the pressure up. Cherryo's up though.
Looking for it. Where's he going to land? Cherryo lands right on top of Zyrhoes, but a quick beads and a quicker ultimate out of the monkey. Everybody going in different directions. Zyrhoes gets the kill onto aero, and FnATIC still hitting the gas. Rama unable to find Cherryo with his final shot, but the Phoenix will go ahead and fall. 4 members up to play defense, but this one has FnATIC's name all over it.
Really highly doubt they're going to be able to come back from this one. It's a rough situation for the boys to be in now. How can they come back in? They're going to have to go into game 2 by the looks of it. Oh, wait, hold on a second. It's still going. Still going for now. They've got the damage to try and kill off the Titan. It's at 50% right now, and they're looking for kills.
Right now wants kills more than they want to end the game.
For a second, I was like, no, not again. Not in EU, please. Sick of seeing it. FnATIC take game 1. A lot of people at home won't be surprised, but I still don't think LC are out just yet, but it's a much better performance from them.
I mean, we talked earlier, and the analyst desk talked earlier about how some of these teams ride on momentum or whatnot, and London Conspiracy, being relatively new to the LAN scene, still look like one of the more stable teams when it comes to winning and losing.
They are a stable team. I mean, we spoke about it just before we went live. I mentioned that FnATIC are tied throughout the SPL. Both this split and last split with LC. It shows LC has the commitment to be able to come back into these games against FnATIC and find the answers. What they need to do is go into their picks and ban strategy and look through and go, right, what was the big key factor there? What was it for you that FnATIC found that was the difficult task?
For me, it was the combination of Zeus and Khepri. That sort of combination is so strong because you want to go dive the Zeus, but you just can't dive the Zeus because he's going to get rezzed every single time. So you have to either take one or ban one. You can't let him have both of those gods.
And I think personally, the goal is to ban out the Khepri. The Zeus, I mean, Zyrhoes, it worked, right? It was Zeus, but it wasn't as devastating as some other Zeuses that we've seen,
know, he
or
was top damage.
some other gods.
He was top damage.
He's a Zeus. I don't know. Let's let the analysts break it down and fix our fight. Kelly, tell us what you guys are thinking.
Welcome back to the Analyst Lounge, everyone. So what do you guys think was the turning point for that game?
I think it was when there was a zoning fight where maniaKK was zoning out 3 and then came back, whereas EmilZy tried to zone out 4 and then he died in response, and then FnATIC was able to get the Gold Fury and then just continuously snowball little advantages from there.
Adonis, do you agree?
Yeah, about the 22-minute mark. I mean, the game was kind of in FnATIC's favor, and then maniaKK was just so far ahead that he zoned out 3, as well as he forced Xing to actually rotate to try and help too. By that time, EmilZy had already got blown up. FnATIC were able to take the Gold Fury and kind of just be so far ahead that they could siege down towers and take advantages. And they were actually playing. FnATIC actually played very sloppy in the late game. I think most notably at the Fire Giant at about 27-minute mark, where they missed like every ult.
Yeah.
But they were just like so far ahead it didn't matter.
Well, how could London Conspiracy capitalize on them being messy?
I mean, FnATIC just had to be messy multiple times for them to really get an advantage. Like, FnATIC had a messy engagement. They didn't necessarily go too deep. They didn't go too aggressive after having their bad engagement. They just kind of backed off and let it happen.
Payne, EmilZy picked Bacchus over someone like Sobek or Geb. Why was that?
That's a risky pick. I'm assuming that's a favorite pick, something he likes to play, but we've seen very early in the game, actually, and my turning point would have been at that point, they go on the Khepri at about level 6 or 7, I think. They burn Khepri, they kill him, he ults himself so he revives, they kill him again, and then they chase him into the Zeus, and they have a nicest composition, which means that the early game is really important for them. They have to win it. And then you see Bellona rotating, Rama rotating. I think they claim 2 or 3 kills more than London Conspiracy. Turns the game into their favor, into FnATIC's favor. And at that point, like I said, ISIS composition, it's like you have to win early game. You have to win early game.
Totally. Who do you think was the weakest player on London Conspiracy in that game?
I'm not necessarily going to pinpoint a player that was weak on London Conspiracy. I'm going to pinpoint more on the comfortability of FnATIC, where we had maniaKK playing Bellona and Realzx playing Ram. They were just more comfortable than they seemed yesterday against Paradigm.
Well, do you feel like there was a star player for them?
I think maniaKK zoning and Ram hitting like almost every single snipe. He had a lot of fantastic snipes. Even though like there was one time where he didn't get a kill, he was still hitting like 2 to 3 snipes like consistently.
Do you give it to maniaKK?
I'd say maniaKK getting ahead and then zoning effectively. It's just that he was so far ahead and he kind of just did Bellona things, and the rest of the team really followed up and played off of their lead. The team as a whole played really well off their lead and made sure that they could close it out this game.
So, first time Soul wasn't picked or banned. Are people finally starting to realize that she's overvalued?
I think that they just want to go back to their zone with FnATIC, and that's why they didn't pick it. And they weren't really afraid of LC getting it too, because I'm assuming they had a strategy prepared for that situation.
Payne, when does it become more important for a team to pick something that they're comfortable with over something that they know is really good, like people seem to be saying with Soul?
When you get into a situation where some picks and bans are off the mark, such as, let's say, Khepri, Athena, Zhonghui, when these picks you can manage, then you can go back to your own preferences. And the advantage of that is that, first of all, you love them, so you play them really, really well. And second of all, when gods go into the metagame and they reach the top, like, let's say, Circuit on North America, or Zhonghui overall in this tournament, people expect you to pick them. So they're going to prepare accordingly to according to these gods. So they'll plan that you're going to ban X god because it's really, really good. But then you play, let's say, Bacchus, or you play Isis or a preferred god, and then it completely overtakes these plans that they make, and then that's when you can take them off guard.
I think the Xbalanque pick came out instead of the Soul simply because of the team comp that we saw LC draft. They drafted the Thor Isis early on in the first half, and they couldn't really invest into a Soul also. I mean, that would have been super good early pressure, but if they couldn't capitalize off that early game pressure, the later the game went, it would have been really rough for them. I mean, we saw that anyway, but they weren't even. It was kind of like they were lead. But if they went into late game even, and they had a Soul instead of a Xbalanque, they didn't want to take that risk and have these gods that don't always translate to be the most powerful in the late game scenarios.
So in the last set, we talked about wombo combos with Naja and Scylla, and I know that some people say that Bacchus and Xbalanque kind of have the same feel because with the Bacchus, you force people to walk. Is there any other gods that we know have a great wombo combo together, but we don't really see in the tournament?
Well, not that we haven't seen, but speaking of this game specifically, the Thor Isis really work well together. In the mid lane, you have the Thor Tectonic Rift, the Isis Spirit Ball connecting. There's a lot of follow-up damage from there with the hammer, with the Wing Gust as well. And LC, even though they didn't have the Naja Scylla, they're still, you can see that they're trying to play off of that 2v2 in the early game.
Why is that so important to play off of something that has combos instead of just picking the best gods that they feel comfortable with?
Because you can really get ahead early. It was important for London Conspiracy to get ahead early with that Thor Isis. These gods are some of the most powerful early, and they have those wombo combos, so you want to find advantages there, because if you don't, Zeus comes online, and if you don't have enough burst damage to kill him, he's going to be doing more than laying Isis in team fights.
See, actually, just about a question about wombo combos. The thing is, you can run with comps that are harder to play, but then if you can get a free comp, let's say Athena dashed on into Medusa Ultimate, if you can guarantee something, it's much better and much more reliable than going for a composition where you have to land 5 skill shots for it to work. Because then at that point, the human mistake is a factor that you can eliminate. If you can do that, you want to do that.
Which is why I think Nox also hasn't really seen any play in the tournament. Outside of Zeus and Zhong being really high, Nox actually has a lot of utility in her kit and was kind of experimented with at the end of the fall split, but her abilities are actually incredibly hard to hit, and if you miss them, you're completely useless in a team fight.
And we definitely seen that with Naja and Scylla, right? Something that you expect to be easy, but we continue seeing people Aegis that Scylla ult outside of the Naja ult. So do you think that people are more, do you think London Conspiracy is going to go back to comfort picks, or do you think they're going to try and continue looking for this wombo combo?
It sounds to me like this composition, the Thor Isis, somewhat worked, but maybe they didn't think about the Khepri. Zeus Khepri, you just can't do anything about it. After the 10th minute mark, if Khepri is around, Zeus is not going to die. And then all he has to do is, he has a fraction of a second where he can cast a spell, cast his ultimate, maybe drop like a Chain Lightning, and then even if he dies, he can still detonate, and his combo's still done. So in that sense, I think maybe they swap one ban or two, maybe sneak in a Khepri if they want to go for the same thing. If not, maybe change things a little bit. Rely on shorter cooldowns rather than ultimates to kill people. It's just Scylla's combo 1 and 2. It does a ton of damage.
I think Payne actually brought up a good point with Zeus Khepri that I don't think we've mentioned here at the desk, is the fact that Zeus, before Khepri was a thing, was trying to like get off as much stacks as he can and then detonate before he kind of got into his own kill range. With Khepri, he can actually just sit there and stack up as many charges as possible, and then once he gets revived, hit that detonate.
Well, we're about to find out if London Conspiracy can take a game off of FnATIC. Let's go to the casters for game 2.